How's it going, folks? Welcome into Overtalk. We're on episode 14. We're talking about cheese strats today. All kinds of cheese. I'm Kid Liquid as
So
always.
cheesy.
Always cheesy. We're joined today by Joshua Piscator Lee, Caleb Cable Finn, Alex Invagination Orlando, and of course Dylan Pepidus Hornenbrook. How's it going, guys? How's everyone doing today?
I'm lactose intolerant. Is it cool if I talk about cheese? Is that gonna bother me?
I don't know. It might start coming out your mouth. You gotta be careful.
Or other
fine,
places,
I guess.
depending on how.
Dude, it's okay.
anything
None
for
of
the
us are
views.
next to each other, so there's no issue here. You
true, you
can
have
die
no
in your
idea.
own toxic fumes, and it won't bother us at all.
Before we get started, we did on cheese strats. Before we get started on cheese strats, we did have our one true god Jeff Kaplan do a developer update for us, mainly focusing on ranked statistics or how ranked play is going to work. Any kind of feedback on that or from what he said there? There's a lot to digest. There's about a 12-minute video of how they're thinking about ranked play.
Yeah, I mean it's so interesting because the idea of ranked for this game is so different from other games. Like, this is not a MOBA where ideally you're just queuing up by yourself to go out and play with other people. Like, he says expressly at the front that this is a team game, that we really want you to play as a six-man team to do the ranked experience. Like, it sounds like they're really not looking forward to building a solo queue experience, and he very much doesn't want the solo queue experience to be the defining feature of ranked play, where, in League of Legends, your solo queue rank is your, it's what you go by, it's what you identify as. But it sounds like they're very much more attuned to, hey, really ranked play is going to be about your team, even though you can play as yourself. That's not really what we want to base your, merit in the game as. And it's so different. Like, there are going to be a slew of problems that come with this game in ranked play and how you're judged and rated that I think are going to feel incredibly different from any of the other games that we've seen.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see how, and Kaplan brought up a good point too about the problem that MOBA games, just games in general, have when you're queuing up in different roles and different characters. Just because you playing Reinhardt, you're not gonna, maybe if you're a Reinhardt main, you're not going to be at the same level of just playing a diva or playing Tracer, and so having a queue in that sense is going to be so weird, especially when you're switching between heroes throughout the entire game. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. And also the idea of they want to create the idea that I got was a toxic free environment, which is
Yeah,
pretty much impossible. That was the funny
Have
thing
fun
where,
with that.
yeah, that's definitely an uphill battle, but that was something that he really kind of stressed in the talk. I mean, anyone else have any thoughts on this?
I mean, you're trying to change the internet if you're trying to change that.
trying to chase humanity itself.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to say, and this is another excerpt that I'm taking almost straight from the talk, when we're talking about building ranked systems for games like these, and it's something you don't really think about because we think, oh, you need a good rank system. This is just a part of design. This is an easy thing, come up with idea, implement, and it's done. But if you try and think of it in a sports example, it's almost Herculean in nature. Because essentially what these rank systems have to do is they have to create an environment, a system, where literally anyone in the world, regardless of their skill level, can play in an environment that makes sense for them. It's imagine taking every golfer in the world, from PGA Tour veterans to people just picking up a club for the first time, and suddenly saying, hey, we have a system that fits all of you. All of you fit into this ecosystem that we have built and given you an experience that is genuinely good for you. When you think about the size and scope that goes into creating a rank system and what they intrinsically have to do from day one of this game launching, they will have to build this thing out. And it'll have to work in some way, shape, or form. I mean, will we have leniency in the first 6 months if it's not perfect? Yeah. I mean, you just have to expect, this is a long run game. There are going to be fixes along the way. But the fact that this thing has to work from day one in some way, shape, or form, it's like mind blowing. Like I don't even know. Like I would just sit there going like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, not very good. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to look forward to. But let's get to the real meat of this episode. Cheese.
I mean, I can't wait for ranked. That's
Sure.
probably what I'm gonna play all the time.
Same.
Let's be honest.
I mean, but see, once you got these strategies aren't going to work just in rank. You have to work them out first, right? You got to play them in normals. And you know what you play in normals with your friends? You play a ton of cheese.
That was a
Like-
6 segue. Like that was a 5 out of 7 segue. Right?
It was a fantastic segue.
We had no way of knowing where this
Yo.
conversation was going.
No.
Cheese. But
I mean-
you're talking about like cheese and like it's more appropriate in casual play. But I'm actually like I've been practicing casting Overwatch because we're doing a collegiate production starting on Friday. Shameless plug right there.
Sure.
But I saw a team actually pull out a 6 Hanzo Strats. It was Team IDDQD over in Europe, where on King's Row on offense, they pulled out 6 Hanzos. Everybody went top window from the spawn, shot it at the hill, and then it was like 30 arrows bouncing around because of the scatter shot, and they actually got an initial pick. So there actually is, I think there actually is a place for that in competitive. Of course, they had to restart the match because there was actually a hero limit enforced, and both teams actually forgot about that. So you could only have, one Hanzo on a team, but it was hilarious because, yeah, in a lot of leagues, they're running hero limits. Just everybody can only run one. But it was really funny at the beginning because the casters forgot, the teams forgot. They're like, what the heck? What was that strategy? Wait, who turned off hero limit? And then that entire thing started. But
That's pretty
that
good.
was-
See, I mean,
it can work. It can work.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me, though. I mean, just side point: the competitive scene is going to do what they want to do. Whatever Blizzard says, this is going to be competitive Overwatch. Yeah, they can impose by putting huge prize pools behind their mode. But whatever the competitive scene wants, they're going to do it. They're going to enforce it, even if you have to enforce it out of game. If you don't have an in-game function to do it, they're going to do it. So it's very interesting. Anyway, I like cheese. I wish cheese would be part of competitive. In StarCraft, it's part of competitive.
Yeah.
You cheese, and if you don't know how to counter cheese, then you're not a pro. I mean, what PPG Bubbles, right? He's famous StarCraft cheeser of cannon rushing everybody. He cannon rushed. Who did he cannon rush on stream on MLG? Was it one of the Kespa guys
Yeah.
who came over?
I mean,
from...
dude, we've seen some great cannon rushes in StarCraft 2.
Incredible. And even at the top level, Boxer, he cheesed for how long? By just bunker rushing people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
in
the
Brood
SCV
War
rushes and
or
stuff.
yeah, in Brood War or in StarCraft and 2, and they both work. So
Maru.
I think that's part of the game is figuring out cheeses that really do work and then figuring out how to counter them.
True. And I've always described it this way of there's differences in cheeses, right? So you have your everyday cheesers, right? And I consider that like a Swiss, like a fine Swiss cheese, right? Or right? It has a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of different, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's holes in it. It's not as fine of a cheese. But then as soon as you develop that cheese and it ages a bit, then you get a nice brie cheese, the more fancy, elegant cheese that you can go ahead and put on different things and toppings. And then it's just fantastic cheese. So I mean, it just grows and it ages and it can turn to something fantastic.
Have you guys
Whatever,
ever
man,
watched?
it all makes me
there's a
full.
I
little,
don't know how to respond to that.
there's a little show called Rastamouse. Have you ever watched this on Netflix?
No.
I have a little girl now, so she watches these random kids. And it's a little mouse who's a Rastafarian, and he always goes around, "Hey, we're gonna get that cheese, man. How you gonna get that cheese?"
Now I'm imagining someone sitting in the Netflix boardroom going, you know what, guys, I got this show idea. It's gonna be a Rastafarian mouse trying to get that cheese. and someone's like, brilliant, let's go. Let's do that.
Supposedly it's an innuendo for weed, but anyways.
No.
Shocking!
Yeah, serious.
What? You used a Rastafarian character to metaphorically put weed in your show. Shocking.
All right,
Anyways.
let's get back on the rails, guys. Let's steer this train back in. Cheese strategies. In my opinion, the most successful cheese strategies in Overwatch all revolve around Lucio. Speaking of Rastafarian.
Oh, I don't agree with you, but
Hey, he's
That was-
Brazilian, not Rastafarian. There's
What?
a difference.
It's
Oh my god.
But like a lot of strategies do revolve around like
I'm just saying, if I was looking for some dank, I'd probably go to Lucio.
yeah, you'd probably go to Lucio. But
He's from the slums, right? So that's where I don't know.
Hey,
I'm
oh
gonna
my
just
god.
stop.
But yeah, like you would think that a lot of the strategies are like 5 hero and a Lucio. Like literally almost every 5 hero and a Lucio strat works in some way.
But that doesn't mean it's cheese. Because there's a Lucio there. Like, I would argue the Junkrat.
Oh,
What?
examples I have.
I would say, yeah, Junkrat, I think, is the best cheeser.
Why?
Okay.
Why is
So
he the best cheeser?
Because
Wait,
I said so. No,
because he's a rat.
No, because
he's a rat.
Because I said so.
Because he's
'Cause
got to
he's a
get that
rat.
cheese.
Gotta get that cheese, man.
So this is what you
It's
do.
the
I'm gonna jump in.
potential. Okay, you do it.
Okay, I play a lot of Junkrat, like an unhealthy amount of Junkrat. And anybody who's played with me has seen me do this at
played
least
with you.
once. When you're on defense as Junkrat, you lay a trap right out of sight, right in front of one of the spawn gates. You put a concussion mine behind it. Right when they spawn, somebody's always going to run through, right? You blow up the mine, and it blows them into the trap, and then you just make it rain on them.
oh my god,
and then
that's
like
awesome.
80% of the time it works every time, and it's super cheesy. It's super frustrating to play against, but when it works, it's the most hilarious thing.
I think I would just type GG well played and rage quit.
I've gotten that a lot. They're like, well played, or like, dude, why? It's
And
so
rude.
additionally, that technique works near a Maisonya's, or whatever it's called. So that also works.
Oh, so you put the trap right
You
next.
put it in front of
yeah,
the ice
that's what-
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and
like
she'll-
Caitlyn putting a trap on right on somebody who's Anya's. You know, it's the same concept.
Yeah, I encourage anyone who has any trap-based combos in League to transfer those skills onto Overwatch. I almost said
Those
Overtalk.
high-level skills.
Hey,
we're all
hey.
we all play
Hey.
League here. Like
Small
I think this is the
victories.
first episode where everybody here has played League.
Like a good amount of league.
Yeah.
No, I mean like a good amount of league. Like
Like a
a
fair
lot of us
amount,
work
yeah.
in League of Legends. That's a different thing.
So okay, I mean, my question is, what I think Alex kind of got to this, but what actually defines cheese in Overwatch versus a legitimate
Overrat.
strategy?
I would say
Overrat.
if you have more than 4 of a hero, you're in the cheese territory. You know, there's some curdling action going here. There's some fine aging to the funk
do we
you're about
call-
to lay out.
Do we call tower defense? Do we call that cheese? Because that's 2 of each tower, right? So 2 Bastion, 2 Symmetra, 2 Torbjorn.
Oh,
is
that's
that cheese?
No,
Terrible.
that's just stupid tryhard. That's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I'd agree
actually
it's
okay with
cheese,
that.
it's
I'm like,
cheesy.
you've essentially set up 2 like kill zones. Great. You know what? That's actually like I just say a strategy.
Yeah.
It might not be a good strategy, but it's a strategy.
I think I would consider that like lurker boxing in Brood War. If anyone remembers what that is.
Uh-huh.
Like where
Yep.
you just create this area that no one can go into.
Oh, good times.
Like that. I think that's kind of what that is. But yeah, I kind of agree with Dylan. I think anything 4 or more of the same hero is like a little excessive.
I think in terms of compositions, like that's an easy way to define cheese. Whenever I think of cheese in any sort of competitive gaming aspect or any other competitive activity, it's a high risk, high reward strategy that's very easy to execute. Whether it's just slapping 4 people on the same hero or stacking up a death bush in League of Legends and then invading like right before camp spawn, like cheesing like that. Something that's very easy to execute, but if it goes wrong for you, and there's so many ways it can go wrong, then you're just absolutely screwed.
Yeah, you're just done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna bring up something real quick because I know Josh's gonna love this. If you play 6 divas, and you have
You want to lose, I guess.
no, I've seen people. I've had this played against me, and I've never gotten enough people to play diva to do this with me. But it's 6 divas. You have 2 people instantaneously lose their suit, so you just have them run in the middle and lose their suit, and then you have the other 4 body blocking and shielding the two that are pumping out DPS, and then if one of them you just have them hold their suits, so you don't have them jump in. You just have them hold it. Then if whoever in the front line loses their suits, you have them flop back and forth.
Yeah.
So you always have 4 divas in the suit and 2 without, just for the extra DPS. And then Diva does enough DPS on her own and is tanky enough to just like it's a lot of DPS. It's a lot of
Dylan,
I
would you
was
tell
just
me
saying,
about
but
the plan?
Yeah, but my question to you is like, why is having that zero-suited diva more effective for you than just throwing in a Lucio?
because
Like,
then
I mean, you throw in Lucio, you get the heal, you get the DPS, you get the
but then the thing is too that like you consistently have like your competition is never ruined because you're never losing more than 1 or 2 diva suits at the same time because you're always consistently flip flopping and having one ready to go.
Yeah,
like,
so
as
your
soon as
Lucio dies, you're screwed. But if one of your mechs gets destroyed, you just have another zero suit. You can constantly rotate without having to change heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you lose your Lucio, you're not done. You inherently have 3 other.
No, but like inherently, you're inherently weaker than you were at maximum. Where at this one, you're consistently, if you do it correctly, you're consistently at maximum power spike.
Yeah, but why am I not saying if you don't lose one of your divas? I mean, you could still lose one of your divas, and then you just have 5 divas, as opposed to, okay,
Sure.
you have 5 divas, but you're more likely to keep your divas up and your Lucio up if you have a Lucio.
True.
But
Yeah.
Six Divas is just, it's way cheesier.
It's way cheesier. It's way
It
more
is way cheesier. I'm not debating that.
it's
I'm
way
just
more
saying,
vague.
like,
It puts the blue in the cheese, okay?
No, it puts
I'm
the
just
bay in
saying
the
you
cheese.
would have a healthier cheese if you had, say, a Lucio.
But by that definitely, like, as soon as you throw Lucio into any team comp, you just immediately add like 50 tryhard points because number one, Lucio's probably the best hero in competitive Overwatch right now, and just
He's the
by
best
throwing
hero.
him,
Yeah.
I think so. I totally agree with you. But just by throwing him in, since this episode is all about cheese, I think that immediately like drops the cheese factor on. Like you drop from like I don't know what Chris's power ranking of cheese was from like the Brie down to the Swiss. But just by changing that Lucio to a 6 diva, then all of a sudden you're in super cheese mode. I mean, like milk is
So you've
spurting
got
out of
full
your
cheese.
ears.
Full cheese.
Super, that's like super cheese, and it can be countered really easily because all you need to do is play Junkrat, throw a mine in there, and all of a sudden everybody just gets separated. Boom,
Yeah.
your divas
Unless
are
you throw
dead.
it into the shield.
Oh
But
shit!
There's no requirement for a hero to be good to make it not or cheese or not cheese. Why are you putting that requirement?
No, I'm not saying. I'm just
Josh?
saying like, I would agree with Josh there. Just like, I
Stop
honestly,
texting.
No, I honestly agree with Josh in that way of like, a Lucio, adding 1 Lucio automatically makes something a little more tryhard. Just because like how good
In a
this-
combo of other
like just adding in a Lucio makes the comp more tryhard. Like a 6
But
divas.
Oh,
6
absolutely.
Lucios.
As soon as you have that
6
heal
Lucio-
element,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
like it changes it from if you have 6 divas or 5 divas in a Lucio. The 5 divas in a Lucio is a little more tryhard than the 6 divas.
I think
Yeah, but okay, so
especially
let's-
because Lucio's at a state right now where he can,
He can
Be
carry
solo.
A game. He can carry a game.
yeah, he can run
Yeah.
around or skate around on his own and not die and kill people on his own, and that's probably going to change because he's a support. But at the state, it's yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee
But going
Jing
back to, like,
Power
making-
Part 2. Jesus Lucio is a menace. Has anyone
What?
on that
What
map
is
where
that?
he's in the when,
Jesus Lucio.
Okay. So Li Zhang Part 2. So that's the map where you're on that like center area and it's
Yes.
just this like circular little gazebo.
Yeah.
And the
yeah,
good Lucios just wall ride that entire time.
Oh my God.
Like they never come down, they never touch the ground, and you never get them. Ever. And it's so infuriating.
What if you get 6 of them? Can 6 of them get up there? Is enough space?
Yo, that's cheese right there.
Yeah, the 6 Lucio. You know what? I'd be down to try 6 Lucio, because I don't think there's like enough people to do enough damage to keep them down.
I've done 6 Mays. It's terrible.
Oh my gosh, that's cheese.
Yeah, we did 6 Mays. That was pretty bad.
Dude,
Yeah, 6
you can slow
Mays.
Didn't we,
someone for
Dylan, the
days.
other time?
Yeah, we did.
We
did
tried a
6
bunch
Mays.
of 6 everything. We tried 6 Mays. We tried 6.
We tried
we did
6 Hanzo. It didn't work.
It was bad. All they need is 1 Pharah. I mean, granted, we're not very good shots, but
Yeah, we were not the top snipers, but yeah, our Alejandro strategy did not work too well.
Alejandro.
what
Played
else did we
against an all
try?
Genji. That
That
didn't
sounds-
work out.
That
well.
is scary.
That sounds
No,
terrible.
they were shitty. They were shit. I didn't like it. We just mowed them down. I got my like 5-piece in that game. It was like fine. No big deal. Maybe it was the map. What map was it, Josh? It was like
We played against 5 Genjis.
Josh doesn't even
Yeah,
care. He
we
just
did.
steamrolled over him. It's
remember
fine.
and I was McCree
5 or
and we just like
6?
it was 6.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. And you got like random like triples and 4-piece like all over the place.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
bad. I remember
maybe
that
it
because I
was
left
that.
you in the middle of a
Press high
Skype
noon.
call to take another call. Oh, my bad about that, by the way. But yeah, sometimes cheese is. See, that's a cheese because it can blow up in your face really quick. And
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
But how did
Maybe
no
it's
one
not
reflect you? Like, if you're McCree ulting
I know.
I
and
action
against a
rolled
team
it.
of like 5 Genjis, like, how would you not just randomly headshot yourself?
So
They
Like,
were
I mean,
really
that
bad. She was like
seems
right in front of them,
improbable.
too.
Yeah, they didn't even I don't think they deflected. They just like jumped around.
And I
Jump-
think she
jump-
like
jump around?
jumped down and like fan hammered
Jump
like
around.
a 4th person. It was stupid. They were
What?
bad.
we tried
Yeah, like, that should be a
Reinhardt's
nightmare.
too. That didn't work very well either.
Reinhardt.
It was fun though. We all 6 of us challenged in at the same time. What was the
Oh my
sprint
God.
thing?
Oh
All
god,
6
Charging,
of
yeah.
It was dope.
dude! If I turned the corner and I saw 6 Reinhardts coming at me, I don't know what
I'd be
I'd
so
do.
scared.
I know, right? I don't
No,
even
you
know.
just have to like fan your angles to make sure that like no one's escaping.
Yeah. What did we do? We do the Roman turtle strat too. I think that's actually potentially very viable on a payload. Is you have a Lucio on the payload and you do 5 Reinhardts surrounding him with the turtle, and
Oh my
it's
God.
actually really strong.
Until like they set up a bastion and then you're just done.
Yeah.
Like a bastion with like a pocket mercy. Oh,
I could see though if you had to
Oh,
push the
man.
payload like a couple of feet, like if you're in the last part of it and you had to push a
Exactly.
couple of feet, like you just all switch to Reinhardt, you just like turtle up and
Charge
get to that.
in, hope to survive.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, okay, I go back to StarCraft with cheese because it was so heavily prevalent in competitive play. Is like you don't bunker rush every single match of your best of 5. You bunker rush the first game maybe to throw them off, or you bunker rush the last game because they're not expecting it and you want to end the series.
Or the middle
But-
one because they're expecting the first or third one.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like you cheese at different you proxy barracks, right? Like remember MMA in the first BlizzCon, he was mad because everybody could hear the screaming, so his enemy could hear the screaming, and he knew he was going to cheese, so he didn't want his opponent hearing the screaming, letting him know he was cheesing. But you put this in at strategic times to accomplish specific goals. And I think that, for instance, also the capture the point, the King of the Hill thing in Overwatch, if you do the Reinhardt there, again, there's only a limited amount of windows, or Diva. There's only a limited amount of windows, and you pop your shield, you pop your deflector in all of the windows, so nobody can shoot in or do anything. They have to rush you close range, and then if you do, you have something set up to take care of them then, maybe some Symmetra turrets or a Torbjorn turret like right there in the center. So I think the right combinations to achieve certain goals, yeah, it's cheesy, but like Josh said, it's high risk, possibly very high reward.
I think Cable just pulled up, I think, one of the most infuriating cheese strats right now in Overwatch, and one that I think everybody has at least faced once. The 5 to 6 Torbjorn team of terror.
I've seen that before.
Especially on point cap maps like Hanamura or Anubis. They are just, it is terrible. Like, there is nothing you can do against 5 Torbjorns unless you are, like, once again, if you're a very competitive team and well composed, you're going to have like a Reinhardt out in front. You're going to do everything correctly. You're going to take them out in order. But the absolute second that one of the Torbjorns has molten core, it all just goes out the window. Like, everything changes because your systematic takedown of his turrets no longer work. You're just like caught in the middle taking damage, and it is just it's so infuriating. Like, you don't want to lose to it. You're like, I don't want to be the guy that just lost to 5 Torbjorns.
6 Torbjorns,
But
dude.
6 Torbjorns, and it happens so much.
I had one where
Speaking-
it's capture the point on Hanamura, and they put up their turrets all on that back room. And so like anytime you got anywhere close, they just like blew you up. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even fair. It's disappointing. Alex, what were you saying?
Yeah, so like Torbjorn, I have a good one that I do. I think it's on Volskaya Industries. The which one's the one with the moving platforms? Is
That's
that the end
Yeah,
of?
Volskaya.
Volskaya.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So you
Volskaya,
can put
like
a turret on the on the moving platform, and
That's
it's
dope.
not like super effective at getting kills, but it's like super distracting, and like you'll have people try and kill it, and it moves fast enough that it's not the easiest thing to take out right away.
It's
And
like a
if you
mini
just
game.
notice it gets low, yeah, like, and so they're busy doing that, and they completely forget about the point. And you can
it's
just
also
put up
That's a
really
another
good
one.
for
distraction.
it's really good for farming up your ultimate because you just like stay back, you lob your shot out, but at the same time you're throwing this out there just to get point, and then when your team really wants to push, you just hit molten core on that thing, and you are in the game.
Speaking of moving stationary turrets, has anybody noticed when you set up a bastion on an elevator, it jogs now? Has anybody else done that? I don't know if that they put. I don't know if they put that in on purpose or what, but like every time I set up stationary on an elevator, it does like this. Like my whole screen's like the elevator's bugging out the whole way up.
Oh, like it moves because the elevator's moving, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, and so
That's
you're
cool.
doing like to prevent people from. I don't know if that was on purpose or if it's
I mean, it
just
makes
my
sense from a
computer.
physics point of view, like a game physics point of view.
Yeah,
Like that's
I mean, to
awesome.
me, it might be an aesthetic thing. Whereas even if I'm not Bastion and I'm just any other character, that movement helps establish to me the fact that I am on a moving platform. Like I could
but it
see where
jacks
it's a
up your
game
aim
design
really
choice.
hardcore.
Yeah, well, maybe it would jack up your aim if you were any other hero standing on a platform. Maybe
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is not something unique to Bastion. This is just a gameplay design they had focusing on aesthetics.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool though. Like I think it's like a game balancing too. Because dude, honestly, if you get a Bastion on the Hollywood elevator,
Exactly.
that takes forever to
Oh,
get rid
yeah.
of. Like, yeah,
You know, it's getting easier. Like a lot now that people are getting more and more aware of the maps. I remember when Hollywood just came out and no one was getting to a Bastion there or a Torbjorn there. But people are getting a lot smarter about how to deal with like some of these what have become more prevalent beta strategies. Like
yeah.
you're seeing people rush the house on Hollywood more. You're seeing people take the back alley and get to the backside. Like they're no longer just going through the main chokehold point and just like dying like lemmings. They're actually becoming much smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find a lot of with Bastion's Farah just demolishes Bastion because all she's got to do is strafe in and out of a wall, and she can hit you without getting hit at all. It's really
Yeah,
annoying.
unless you're literally just like volleying fire into the corner, it's very hard to do enough damage to get her down.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what's funny?
But-
We're talking about all these strats and like things that are meta or people getting smarter. The smarter people get, the more susceptible to cheese they actually are.
Yeah, it's like a psychological thing, right? Like
You just don't see it coming. You don't know what to do. It's like
it's like chess. How many moves ahead and how many trick moves are
yeah,
you gonna do?
or like even when you look at something like Melee, right? Like in Melee, Mewtwo King is such a good player because he understands how much damage and how much like, the exact strategy of what's going on in the game. But if you play someone like Mango that's just gonna like do random shit, then all of a sudden he can't predict what's going on and he doesn't understand the scenario he's in. So like you can have the same thing in Overwatch where, dude, I've never seen six Genjis before. Like I don't know how to handle that.
Right.
And then you just freak out for half the game, and then by the time you figure it out, then they switch back, and then all of a sudden you're like behind a good 4 minutes. Like, oh well.
You know
Has
what
anybody
is the most
seen? Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, if you want to see a team that completely has no idea what's happening, so if you're attacking on
Watch
Volskaya,
HBT.
the left ledge jump, there are only a certain number of heroes that can cover it, but you know, your Tracer, Winston, Pharah, Reaper, I think Lucio can do it on a wall ride. I'm unsure whether Genji can close it or not. But essentially there's a list of heroes that can get over. Diva can get there with her push. But there are a list of heroes that can get over this left-hand ledge, and you completely avoid that front choke point. You will never see a team more surprised than when 6 people come out of absolute nowhere on the point. Like, they will just have this absolute moment where they do not know, like, what reality is anymore. And it is so gratifying to know that you've just completely mind gamed 6 people at the same time.
Yeah, and honestly, I
That's
could see stuff happen too, where you just straight up mind game someone with like 6 divas or whatever, or 6 like something, get over that point, and then you just kind of just wreck their whole backline. Especially if they're like all Torbjorns and you just like their turrets now have no use. So
Yeah.
And Symmetra too. Like Symmetra falls
That's what I was
prey
gonna
to
say.
it tremendously.
Well, has anybody tried? What I'm thinking is, instead of everybody going all one hero at exactly the same time, of progressively all switching into that hero as you develop a point of control. So let's say it's control mode, King of the Hill mode, and you all somehow take the point, and you're all controlling it and getting your percentage gain. And one by one, as you die, you switch to Symmetra. And as you get into the control point, you put up her turrets. And now all of a sudden, you have 6 Symmetras with, 18 turrets that are all placed around this control in a perfect circle. And ain't nobody getting in that control point. But you can't take the point as Symmetra by herself. You go 6 Symmetras on the point, you're all going to die. But if you control it and you progressively plant these in there, I think that would work.
I mean, I see your point. I just think like the more progressive it gets, the less surprised they are.
Yeah.
And so like you start to lose your element of surprise.
Oh, okay, I see.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, now there's 3 Symmetras. Oh, now there's 4. Oh, now there's 5. Like, that's a different thing than, oh, dude, there's 6 Symmetras. Where did this come from?
But I mean, do people really check the hero ratio that often?
I usually do.
Yeah.
I mean, if I saw 3 Symmetras, I'd be like, what the heck? And then I'd check and be like, oh, there are 4 Symmetras. That's neat. But
yeah,
I think
as soon as I notice something different, then I'll check it. Like, if I notice something's off, like, oh, now there's 2 tracers. How many are there now? And, like, which one's missing now? I usually
like if I get sniped twice, I'm like, okay, are there really 2 snipers? And I'm like, oh, there are 2 snipers. That's stupid. Now I'm going to go rush your point. But like, yeah, I do check it quite recently, or quite prevalently. One of the things I will say about trying to run multiple Symmetras, especially on a control point, this is against the point of cheese. You shouldn't point out the faults because the faults are pretty obvious, but if you try that, I will promise you that there will be Pharahs raining down damage onto your point like you would not believe it. Like, it's...
With the Symmetras?
Yeah, if you had 6 Symmetras on a point, you would just have like 3 Pharahs or 3 Junkrats just lobbying in all the damage, and then all it takes is 1 Winston popping bubble and you've cleared out like half the side.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Symmetra.
That's how do you counter cheeses? There's always a counter to cheese, and usually it's an easy counter if you spot it properly.
You can call it ham. I mean, ham's usually a good foil.
Ham. Waka
waka. I mean, there's the point like somebody brought up earlier about how cheese can be so, it can be devastating to a pro player who's not used to playing against strategies like that. And I think in any competitive game, cheeses are something that, as an all-in strategy, they only really work in best of ones, because as a pro, you're gonna have seen like almost everything get thrown your way, and part of your skill set of being a pro is being able to adapt on the fly. Because back when I like used to compete in like Call of Duty events, there'd be like some cheeses that come out where like, I don't know, 4 people rush the bomb site with shotguns, and that's something like you would never see in like something like CS:GO or like Call of Duty. But that shit will only work once. And like in CS:GO, where you have to win like 15 rounds, or in Call of Duty where you have to win like 6, it's okay to give up that one, but now you're aware of it, and now you know exactly how to counter it. And the way you do it is by literally walking backwards so they can't hit you. But like it unless
it builds
Overwatch
a psychological advantage. I mean, if it's a best of anything and you have one up, then especially the first one, that's a pretty good psychological advantage.
I still don't think Overwatch is a type. Yeah, it does, but I still don't think Overwatch is a type of game where a cheese strat is gonna take an entire map off of somebody. It's just.
But here's the thing too, is that with certain games you just need to adapt yourself. Sometimes you need the whole team on board to be able to counter a cheese, or at least a few people. And with my experience so far, it seems to be really damn hard to get people to get on board and communicate in a way that's not passive aggressive or
Oh my
like
God.
policing. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one thing to suggest like, hey, we could really use another healer or something, but instead people say things like, oh, I guess I'm gonna be the only tank, and so that automatically sets off. So when you're like, you're trying to get people to switch, people get really defensive about that, it seems. So it might be a lot harder than you think in like at least pub games to try and get people working together.
I mean, cheese runs pubs. Like that's almost like the point of cheese is to run pub games. But in competitive, like the price of cheese is the fact that you don't just pull cheese. Like you don't just say, "Hey guys, we're going to run 6 divas and this is going to work." Like you have to practice a cheese strat, which is inherently also hard. Like a lot of League of Legends teams have, people say, "Oh, we don't practice against them because they practice their cheese strats or they don't do the regular thing." And it's tough because you have to put in hours on cheese strat to make it work. That's the cost. If you want to use it in a game, that's great, but you have to practice, and that's practice time you didn't do on the regular stuff, on your basics that are supposed to help you out. So like for competitive and pubs, it's like two different varieties. Where it's quite common in pubs that you're going to have the regular common cheese. Like you're going to see 5 Torbjorns to the point that it's probably going to be the cheddar of cheese for Overwatch.
No, it's like what I brought up earlier with the Swiss and Brie analogy of like the more the cheese ages, the more you practice it, the better it's going to get. It's going to lose the holes. It's going to get a lot more tight and useful.
Yeah.
So
Is it a cheese at that point, or is it more like an optimal strategy? But if it's that developed,
I think so.
That's my question. Where is the line?
Honestly, I think it is still a cheese. It's just a matter of like how there's like for cheese, there's an obvious clear strategy of like this is how you beat it. I think the thing you practice for is like how quickly can it win, right? How quickly can you get to the point where like they don't know what's going on, and then how well do you deal with like the one thing that can beat it? Like, of course, there's always gonna be that one thing that can beat it, but like, how do you work around that and how do you adjust to it? So like, not completely getting rid of it because you can't, but like sort of softening or shortening the window of opportunity that they have to go ahead and pull off whatever they're gonna pull off. I think that's a really important thing.
The Reinhardt phalanx formation, like when you're turtling as Reinhardts. It might seem simple to just say it, but it takes a pretty decent amount of coordination. Like you'd have to practice this. You'd probably think up, okay, I'm right side guy, I'm left side guy, I'm front back, and you'd have some sort of system ideally where you all know where to go and how to form rank.
Sure, and how to call threats and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you'd have a very systematic way of dealing with that. It would take practice if you wanted to use it at a high level. You could pull it out in a pub game anytime. But if you were thinking this was something we're really going to try, like this is going to be our ace in the hole card when we're going into this tournament, this is going to be like our map taker, you're going to have to put in time to practice that. And that's time, say your support main's not putting in, playing Lucio, getting more used to his wall rides. Your offense major is no longer putting on time on his Tracer and his Reaper, and he's instead inherently wasting time playing Reinhardt. Whereas you're building more well-rounded people, I feel, with cheese, because they're literally doing almost anything you're calling them to do, but you're losing some of the sharpness of the blades of other people on your team when they're playing these, off-roll sort of heroes or strategies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like going back to the practice thing, I don't know, Dylan might be the only one that remembers this. But 2012, there was an LCK match between GSG and CJ Entus. And they went to Game 5, and in Game 5, GSG pulled out this all-mid Heimerdinger push strategy.
What?
And won that match.
Yep.
It was in 19 minutes, remember? And,
yeah. What the hell?
And they talked to Clear about this. After Clear and who was their mid laner? Clear and Easy. And so they talked to them afterwards about the match, and like they said they practiced that strategy for months, and like they decided now was the time to pull it out. And it's like, yeah, that's something they practiced, and it's something that was really cool for them to pull off in a professional match. But like, it's still cheese. It's a strategy, but that's still very cheese. And anyone, I think a lot of cheese too is the eye test. Like the eye test is a lot of cheese. Like if you can look at it and say that's cheese, like it's pretty obvious at that point.
Yeah, I mean, to the point that a lot of people remember Cloud9 when they first came on the scene, they were very popular for the Ashe Zyra bottom lane.
Yeah.
Which to Sneaky and Lemon, when they started playing it, they thought of it as a cheese strat, where they're like, hey, you know what would be really funny? Let's just have this like super lockdown bottom lane. And it sounds kind of cheesy. But the fact of the matter is, it was so successful that it became meta. Like, cheese has the ability to evolve based around how we view it, how the perspective and, the usage around it. So, maybe it stops being cheese and now it's fondue or like whatever you want to call it. It just has this like higher level to it.
And ultimately, I think it makes the game more interesting if people are allowed to experiment a little bit more, which is why I'm kind of nervous about these hero limitations, because we don't know what works yet. We don't know what works yet. And it's interesting because, Chris is able to probably name off a bunch of random matches from 10, 20 years ago when, whatever. But like he's able to pick out this one match where it's like, yeah, it was years ago, but I still remember it because it was the Heimerdinger mid cheese. And so ultimately, like, whether like the integrity of the game is under scrutiny or not, it's enjoyable and people talk about it. So that's what you need.
It's like the thing too.
Yeah, it's entertainment value.
Going back again too, like I can fall in another match. It's the famous one of when Savior lost to Bisu, right? How did he win that match? He rushed Dark Templar and he like just killed off all his bases and kept sniping Overlord so he couldn't see the Dark Templar. Like that was literally how he beat the best player in the world.
And that became a legitimate strategy after that.
Yeah, sure. And like that's like another example of like that's cheese.
So Josh, why are they implementing this hero limit rule? Do you know?
I was gonna throw in my opinion regarding hero limitations discouraging cheese, but I think based on what I've seen, Alex, right now, it's actually more encouraging of more cheese-like strategies because beforehand, I think the god tier in Overwatch right now, before this most recent patch, was Lucio, Winston, and Reaper. And in tournaments where you didn't have hero limits, it'd be 2 Lucio, 2 Reaper, 2 Winston. That is what almost everybody ran, attack and defense. That was just meta. That is what you did. But once I started watching over these games that have hero limitations where you can only play one, like still there are going to be the 2 supports that are almost always played are Lucio and Zenyatta with the occasional Mercy. And then now you have a little more variation in terms of the offense heroes. But the most fun I had when watching matches or like doing the whole practice cast were when teams would get like a really like far lead on like their stopwatch time and they knew they only had to hold off a team for 30 seconds. So they would cheese strat by pulling out like things like Symmetra, Bastion, Junkrat. And these are heroes that I felt like we were like, there's no way they're going to be pulled out in competitive, right? And a lot of them were super cheesy strats because there was a game between, I think it was like Project X and IDDQD, where IDDQD, they took the first objective on Numbani in 33 seconds on Numbani. So the way stopwatch works is the other team on the other side has to take it in 33 seconds or less, otherwise they just automatically lose. So IDDQD, they're like, you know what? We only have to hold this for 33 seconds. We're going to pull out a Symmetra, a Bastion, and a Junkrat and just hold this 1 point. If the other team didn't come through that 1 point, they were absolutely screwed. Because as a Bastion, like what more can you really do besides sit there? Junkrat, you're just going to get jumped on. And Symmetra, you walk past her turrets, she's pretty much useless. It just worked out so well because they all happened to flood into that one corridor, and all of a sudden you see a Bastion triple kill, and you're laughing your ass off. So for right now, given how like quote unquote like weirdly balanced a lot of these heroes are, I feel like hero limits have actually encouraged more creative strategies. Otherwise, we were just seeing Winston, Reaper, Lucio. That was everything.
Wow. Yeah,
that's a really good point.
It seems like Overwatch is a little prone to brute force tactics, at least the way we've seen it in like these early stages where people are really like, oh man, this hero is really powerful, like Lucio. And they're just like, okay, if Lucio is powerful, more Lucio is more powerful. And then Winston is strong, let's get multiple Winstons instead of, adding a Reinhardt. Where we're taking things at their like base value and assuming that if we add another of those things, it's the complete addition of their base values together. So it's like 1 and 1 makes 2. Where really, when you look at this game like holistically, what you want to see is well, one Winston has a value of 1. When you add the second Winston, he has a little bit diminishing return. You're not adding the full utility of the hero anymore. So let's say it's like a 0.5. So yes, you have 1.5, which is better than 1. But maybe if you added a Zarya or a Reinhardt, their values would then be, say, a 1 or a 0.8. Sure, that 0.8 isn't as good as the other Winston's 1, but the fact that you had diminishing returns on your second Winston make the Zarya or the Reinhardt worth inherently more. I think that's more healthy for game design. That's maybe what Blizzard wants to move towards. So I could see hero limitations maybe being, something they say, this is really helping the scene develop as a whole. This is helping the meta grow in a healthy way. This is helping, hero design and distribution in a healthy way. I could see it being a positive.
Sure. The only thing I would bring up is that Blizzard's big thing has been always is ever since the game came out and ever since BlizzCon, and we got a ton of answers where like what they want to happen for Overwatch is they want hero switching to be a big deal, and they want like hero compositions to be a big deal, and not only that, but hero compositions using like multiple heroes or like just any combination of ways you can use heroes. So like if the way that the official Overwatch League runs is, you can run multiple heroes, and we might run into the things that Josh is saying of like this being a problem.
I mean, you already have situations where you wonder like, oh, these two teams are about to get into a team fight. Who's going to win? The answer is whoever has Lucio ultimate up. It's a super cheesy answer, but all like 100% of the time, if the two teams are somewhat equally matched and they're playing optimally, whoever has Lucio ult up is going to win because they just know how to use it really well. So if you start throwing 2 or 3 Lucio ults in there, I don't think it just adds up additively. I think the value of these heroes goes up like multiplicatively because of how loaded. Thank you. Just how loaded like some of these hero kits are. Like Lucio has a really good example of he kind of does everything, and he does everything like really pretty darn well, and his ultimate is just game changing. So I mean, it's still super early. It's in closed beta. Only a very, very, very small percentage of the actual player population has the game. But as of right now, I have to say I'm a fan of the hero limits because otherwise everybody just kind of sticks to the tried and true stale meta.
Yeah.
So then is this something that we think that Blizzard needs to change in the balance, like in the heroes themselves, in order to prevent these stale metas from developing? Or, I mean, because we saw them do it with StarCraft, and sometimes it worked well. Sometimes I thought that they should have just left it alone. But, I mean, how else would they fix this? Otherwise, it just stays that way forever.
I mean, like, honestly, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with the way Blizzard's approaching this game. So, like, I think changes have to come eventually, because I think they have to address the idea of, like, something being really stale. Because obviously there's very clear tiers of like who's good and who's bad, and you never really want that in a game. Like Dota and League of Legends get around it because they change the game so often that like champions and heroes are consistently moving around the meta. So like heroes will move in and out of meta. Like Ari's been in and out of the meta for once a year she'll become relevant, and then she'll go back into the cave for the rest of the time. You know what I mean? Like it's
Disney Vault.
Yeah, she'll go back into the Disney Vault, and stuff like that, right? So like they like the champions and the heroes in Dota, and even in Heroes of the Storm, like they're rotating in and out consistently of like who's strong and who's not. And like I'm assuming that's what they're gonna try to do with Overwatch, at least from a balance.
But that's kind of forced by the changes that the developer makes. I mean, the change, like the developer does a little tweak, and everyone goes, oh, dang, Ari's so strong right now, and everybody plays Ari, and the second that they untweak it, then it falls out again.
Sure.
I personally don't like that style of forced meta rotation. I can understand why in a free-to-play game you might do that so that people add more variety to their champion pools. But in something like Overwatch, I hope that they don't do that. I hope they don't force a rotation of meta.
It's
But
not
then-
wide enough.
No, but then I think you get into the idea of like what Brood War was, right? Like Brood War, towards the end of Brood War, as diverse as that game was, that game had been out for so long, you could literally predict the way a match would turn out. Like my Liquibet score was through the roof just because I knew all these players. You knew what they were gonna do. You could literally predict the winner in 99% of cases of like what they're gonna do, what's gonna happen, the strategy they're gonna use, the adjustments they'll make, because that game was so figured out. And like that's an idea of like Blizzard stopped balancing that. Blizzard perfected, quote unquote, perfected that game like 5 years ago. You know, they were still getting updates at like 2008. So, or like balance change in 2008 ish, right? So like after that, then that game was pretty stale. And like I think them implementing new heroes is going to change a lot of things up, and then you got to go ahead and make sure those new heroes adjust within the balance or within the meta. And like as much as it might be forced meta changes, like you gotta think they're doing the best they can. They're not specifically going like, let's make Hanzo really strong for a month. I seriously doubt they're doing that. I think it's just more of like balance ideas and like things that they think might balance the game better, and then the community is going to go from there. I disagree with the idea of like developers changing things. I think it's just like, here's something we think is going to work, and then they don't know because until you have hundreds of millions of people playing your game, you're not entirely sure how the balance is going to go.
Yeah, and you need a little bit of time for things to
Settle.
even out, for things settle, flush itself out. Nobody likes stale cheese, so.
Well, and I'm apprehensive about this whole idea that, oh God, that were like these, like they didn't say unlimited possibilities, but like all these possibilities with all these hero combinations, because I don't see it yet, and I don't know if it's like going to be a thing, because you see a Symmetra on this map, you know generally where the turrets are going to be. Oh, you see the Zarya ult coming. Oh, here comes the Mei. Like you can predict to see like the sort of situations that will happen as soon as you're familiar with all the heroes. So I'm not feeling that endless possibility kind of complete fluidity. I think right now, after playing a lot, that the game is pretty predictable as far as like what you're going to see people do with the heroes.
Yeah.
That's just I don't know about what you guys think about that, but
I mean, I really hope, just thinking about this now, when Josh is talking about whoever has Lucio ult's going to win, I really hope that is the case, so that the go-to line can be, let's break it down. And then go ahead and break down the big...
Josh is
Bye,
leaving.
Josh.
That's it.
Hi, Josh.
No,
That
he said that he meant to break right now.
Any last thoughts on cheese before we go though, guys? Cheese or the meta or
I hope we see. I mean, I love cheese. It's been super fun to play. I have the most fun playing the game when I'm playing with my buddies and we all try random crap and we're able to convince that one extra guy in the game to.
Nova thought you might want some cheese.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
So Kale's wife just came in to hand him a big stick of cheese, and that
Some good cheese. Anyway,
Was not expecting that. Okay. And your point
Podcast
was
over.
before
It's
your
done.
wife derailed you.
so the point was, I think it's a lot of fun. I hope people continue to try it. We played the one game where it was 12 tracers, and that was literally the most fun game I've ever played in my life. It was absolute mayhem. But competitively, I do hope it becomes... I don't know how much I agree with the hero limits. We'll see how that pans out with the different leagues that implement it and that don't, and how Blizzard continues to develop, to prevent the staleness from occurring. But I think it'd be really cool to see this, and allowing switches and heroes will only encourage situational cheese. That we got 30 seconds left, guys, and we got to get on that point. All we got to do is tag it. 4 people go tracer and just keep tagging it, and then we'll progressively get in there. Yeah, but we got to tag it. We got to hold it. So I want to see this develop. I want to see cheeses become legitimate strategies. I think it could work. That's my 2 cents.
Same.
yeah.
So I'm
agree.
going to go the dietitian route here. I'm going to say, a little bit of cheese is healthy. You know what? It's got some protein. It's got some entertainment value. Eating the whole block like Cable's doing right now, probably not great. So here's the thing. You need to limit the cheese because when you have too much cheese, it starts getting unhealthy and it gets really boring to watch. Like, I'll give you an example. If 4 Winstons proved to be like a good form of cheese, like a really, it worked really well, and every game started having 4 Winstons, you would get really tired of watching. You wouldn't want to watch it. It would grow very stale.
It's not cheese anymore then.
Yeah, it's not cheese anymore, but it's still at the same time. It's like
stale cheese is no good.
When brute force wins over tactics, that's still cheese in my book. Where I'm literally just like ham-fisting a result because I knew how to push, this one thing over and over and over again, rather than actually thinking it out, having a plan, and doing things in a mental fashion. So my thing is, like, if we get to the point where this is actually becoming an issue where, all of this is happening and it's ruining the viewer experience and it's ruining the player experience and things just become stale, that's when you need to start policing the cheese. That's when you really need to start saying, okay, hey, we're going to start cutting back. Maybe instead of cheese here, we're going to add another healthy piece of fiber. We're going to get that real nice mix of different things into the diet. We're going to, mix things up. You're going to get really healthy here. You're going to feel really well balanced, and you're not going to be constipated by the amount of that's just going on in your system.
Yeah, I mean, hey, a good amount of fiber just to get all the shit out and redo the meta.
Yeah,
well,
that's
played.
it.
I think Josh's definition is really powerful, though. High risk, high reward. There needs to be an inherent risk in every cheese. Otherwise, if there's no risk, if it's overly dominant, then it's not cheese anymore. It's just nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I think it is. I think it's still cheese. I think it's just like it's bad cheese. If there's no
cheese.
Yeah,
stinky cheese.
It's the stinky cheese. It's the stinky cheese that's sitting there, and we all smell it. We all know it's there. And it's just, who wants to really address this cheese that's just sitting there in the fridge, making everything else taste bad?
I'll do it. I actually don't even like cheese. So seeing Caleb eat that cheese, I was kind of going, like a little bit.
Dude,
oh my!
How do you not like cheese?
People ask me this,
that's a question that I need to ask a separate time. I will have a philosophical debate on the actual merits of food.
We'll be back next week with the dietitian professional talking about Josh's hate for cheese. Figure out if it's healthy and what he can go ahead and supplement his diet with. But yeah. Actually, next week's episode is going to be on DLC content and how we think it's going to be rolled out and how often and such, and how we think Overwatch is going to grow over the next year and a half.
Happy birthday to our fellow streamer and caster, Seltzer. If you're out there and watching, I don't think you will be.
No.
But happy birthday, Rachel.
Yeah, but she I think she's probably doing her own thing. I think she's streaming right now, actually, but.
Really?
She might actually be. I'm not entirely sure, but go ahead and
happy 30th birthday.
Wish Rachel a happy birthday, and she'll surely appreciate that. And go ahead, follow all her stuff. Also follow all of our stuff at our Twitter /Overtalk podcast, and we're also on Facebook and Twitch and iTunes, all kinds of stuff, SoundCloud. So go ahead, check our stuff out. Go ahead, comment, send us suggestions, all that stuff. And yeah, thank you for joining our discussion on cheese. And we'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.